Uh, what do you like about pinball most? What attracts you to pinball? What keeps you playing, and what makes it interesting still?
It's just the whole dynamic of the 3D. It's like Disneyland under glass. The whole,
Oh yeah.
All that three-dimensionality of you don't get that in a video game. I'm a pinball guy. Harry Williams quote: "The ball is wild."
Oh yeah.
No game is ever the same. No ball is ever the same. So,
no matter how good you are.
Right. And it's not like a video game where you can learn what's going to happen next, and you can master it that way because basically the program, it runs the same. As long as you make the same moves, it's going to respond the same way. Which pinball, none of that applies. So that to me is like such a game changer that it's what keeps it interesting.
And it's challenging. It's more of a sport than video games are.
I mean, I like video games, but all that came after. My tech buddy that was here earlier, he's like a generation behind me. And,
okay.
So he grew up with the video games.
Right.
And he loves pinball. He's a pinball guy like me, but solid state. He won't touch an electromechanical. He'll barely play one. He will not go under the hood of one. He just looks at all those relays and shakes his head. But the guy's a genius when it comes to circuit board repair, which I'm not allowed to touch a board.
That's tough.
I'm allowed to solder, but only on durable components like coils.
Okay. Yeah. That's not many contacts there, but
I'm not allowed to touch boards. It's just a joke between me and him. I'm better. It's better if I don't do the board work. He does the board work.
It can be a lot.
No, but they didn't have video games. I graduated in '79. Asteroids, the black and white XY, not that it was the first video game, but it was one of the first to take the world by storm, had just come out. So none of that was part of my world when I was growing up. So therefore, it was all strange and foreign to me. And as life evolved after high school, I barely knew what was going on in the arcades. I didn't hang out in there anymore because I was an adult. I had to get a job. And, wives and kids, and then all of a sudden you rediscover what you've missed during the whole time you haven't been paying attention. So
we kind of pass it down. Like my dad passed it down to me. Your dad passed it down to you somehow. Do you remember what your first game you played was, or the first memorable game? Like, hey, I really like this game. And
I've got vague recollections of wood rails growing up at different resorts, but I don't remember the titles. When I was probably mid-'60s growing up, so there was probably a lot of wood rails around still.
There's a nickel still? Or?
Probably. I mean, like I said, they're only the vaguest memories. The first game I remember a title of is, I think it's 65 Williams Whoopee.
Okay. It
had the 5 captive balls in the horseshoe at the top. That I remember playing, and I loved it. So if anything hooked me, maybe that did. And being the time frame there, the game was relatively fresh, so it was probably playing pretty well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Even an EM when it's an old electromechanical game, when it's clean and working right, it can get fast. It can be a fast game. I jumped on a few of those. Top Line, I think the fishing theme, I think that was called. I have a Fishtails, and I was like, what's another fishing game? And there you go, right there. And
I never thought of that.
It's got a mermaid on it, and then the guy, the boat captain that's on the phone talking to the mermaid that's on the other line, and it's silly. It's fun.
I never thought about the fishing angle, but you could develop a whole collection around that, because Gottlieb made a boatload of games with Seashore and Summertime. There's a number of titles that you could build yourself your own little game room just around fishing.
Yeah. And that's are there any designers that you've liked, you preferred throughout the years, that you've liked their work? Because you have a Steve Ritchie, you've got a George Gomez, you got a few Brian Eddy /
I was never. My buddy and I were just talking about that. I know a lot of guys fall in allegiance with designers and worship everything they make. And to me, they've all had their high water marks and great. I mean, Gomez really hit it with Monster Bash. I like the stuff Futzenreuter used to do back in the 80s. I mean, I just got that Bad Cats, even though it's not up and running yet. I love that kind of game. You know, I love what he did with Taxi. So, but no, I don't really, you know, have a follow that I love this guy and everything he makes is awesome. But I don't think of it that way.
Or a type of theme you like, or it's really basically just.
I do like the cartoony themes more.
Okay.
The Terminator 3 that my buddy just left with. You know, sometimes, and I'm wrong about this, I know, and he corrected me. I just miss the game because I just don't like the looks of it. It just does not look fun to me.
That's a rough game. It's really metallic. It's really just.
Now he's telling me, oh, it's awesome, and he explained it to me, and I said, you know what, it probably is. I just can't get past that. That style, and I don't like that dark theme stuff. I think it's one reason I fell away from pinball in the 80s. The artwork during the very beginnings of Solid State, you had a lot of that dark theme stuff going on. There was a lot of it, you know, and to me that
Centaur and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, and just Williams was making, you know, Black
Knight.
No, Black Knight's dark, but not as dark as some. But I'm trying to think. Williams made a whole series of games that was just nothing but science fiction fantasy, but with almost like a negative twist. I don't know what you call it. And then they had all the other ones that were in Sorcery, Scorpion, and all that.
Right. Sorcerer.
And they were great games, some of them.
Scorpion.
But again, I couldn't get past the artwork. See, I'm a cartoony kind of guy.
All right.
You know, you say Hotline. I love games that look like that. I love Fishtails.
Yeah, Fishtails.
I love Whitewater. Monster Bash.
Yeah. Those are fun. They're art too. You know, it's all art too. Because I was at a friend's house. He has some older games like Flash Gordon, Future Spa, and we just love Future Spa. It's a good game, but you just love the art because it's either so horrible or you just like it. I mean, some of the art is so just bad, it's good. And the art of pinball reflects the time, like the art of the time, and what people are like culturally of the time. So like Monster Bash, all the Universal monsters, it's got to be a hit. It's Universal Monsters, and you know, you have them in a rock band. That's unreal. Who doesn't like a rock show? If you like a rock concert, I mean, that's a hit. Just like, you know, you have Medieval Madness. People like medieval time stuff. I mean, they have medieval time, you know, dinner theaters and things, and so people really gravitate towards like the themes, and you know, you have a good variety of themes there. And two of them you have is Bonsai Run and Whitewater 100. Those I believe they did three. There was 3 games in that 2 or 3 year time frame that were about motorcycles. Like they just kept going and going.
What was the other one? BMX?
They did Road Kings.
Oh, okay. How could I forget Road Kings? We used to have one.
You did.
Yeah, we did.
I think it was kind of forgettable.
I forgot all about it. No, I just saw one at the show. Bally made another one. What's it called? BMX?
Yeah, there's a BMX one too.
Okay. Because when I got the Blackwater, we were discussing placement, and I said, well, it's got to go next to Bonsai Run. You got the motorcycle theme going on. I'm like, where else are you going to see that? You know, anywhere else on the planet? Not too often. You know, I'm sure some guy's got a game room somewhere
in a game room
with Bonsai, Blackwater, BMX, and Road Kings all set up in a row. But you know, I've seldom seen anyway.
Yeah, I've seen Blackwater 100 next to Road Kings.
Okay.
That was in Knoxville, Tennessee. It was a Time Warp. It was a team room. It's called Time Warp, and they had that old game Time Warp. You probably played that. You know, the funky, the banana flippers. And so
I parted it out. I still got the parts in the garage.
Nice, but nice oscillation music. It was oscillating all the way up. And I mean, it seems like it was oscillating into infinity. It just get faster and faster. And Bonsai, that's the second time I've seen a Bonsai Run. First time was at someplace in North Carolina that had it on route. It was and again, it was a collectors went together and made a store, and it's pretty neat with the back glass.
Right. Yeah, it's a neat concept. Yeah. And they didn't make a boatload of them. I mean, they weren't limited, but I don't remember the production on it, but it wasn't a high production number. So I imagine, I mean, I wasn't around or I wasn't paying attention back when the game was new, but I imagine it sold for a little bit more money than a conventional style cabinet, you would think there was more there. So
When did you pick that up? Was that like at an auction or?
no, it actually came from that local route operator.
Local route.
Yeah. He lost a bowling alley location, and it was in that bowling alley for years. In fact, when I got it, guys that used to go to that bowling alley said, "The bowling alley's closing, and where did you get that bonsai run?" And no kidding, you know. Part of it's just providence, being in the right place in the right mindset, and just
just manifest it. If you want it, you know, you just gotta focus on it and do the work to find it. And
yeah, actually, I didn't sit there and scoop on it right out of the bowling alley.
Right,
He pulled it out of the alley. I went back to his shop, and it caught my eye, and I was like, well, you know, I'm going to see if I can get that, work that off next. So.
they get hard to find. I mean, they're getting harder and harder to find. Is that you get them through that operator? Have you gone to like the auctions or?
I bought a lot of stuff through the local auctions. Yeah. Most of the used stuff, though, came through other collectors.
Okay.
You know, just getting to know people.
Yeah, the networking. So have you
anything that, well, not anything. Most of the driver games that I did buy new, of course, I bought from Betson down in
Okay.
Russia, so that's only a 40-minute ride for me.
Okay.
Some of which they deliver here in their humongous truck, and sometimes I went down and picked them up.
And so they do they do trade-ins too, or they buy, sell, trade?
They
just
do,
buy and
but
sell.
being in the business, their trade values are not what market values are, because they have to make money. So I seldom do I trade back to them. For instance, on the driving games, which are ridiculously expensive, if you buy like within a year or so of just buying something from them, you can trade in the two you bought last year for two brand new whatever they're selling this year, and only have to pay for one. So in other words, 50% depreciation, which that's a hell of a hit for 1 year.
Yeah, you'd have had to have a really killer location.
Yeah, you really got to earn some serious coin. And we're not on coin here. It's hard to gauge what each individual game is worth to me, because I'm on a general admission, so I really can't do that. Is this thing paid for itself? Well, you can't look at it as an individual. You have to look at the big picture and say, can I afford to spend another $15,000 on driving games?
Yeah.
Because that's what they go for. They're $7,000 a seat.
Right.
Yeah.
And you want to do them in tandem.
I want to do them in pairs. It's 3 times the fun. I learned that a long time ago.
Yeah. Like the Hydro Thunder. Me and my buddy here today, Josh, we're just playing out the high. He's like, hey, let's play Hydro Thunder. I'm like, all right, that's one of the only games I ever liked that was a racing game.
That was my first driver too.
It holds appeal, even though they made a new one, which is
H2 Overdrive,
which is beautiful.
I saw it on Benson's floor. He tried to get me to sit in it, and I said, nope, not doing it.
It's not as fun. It's not as fun. It's just prettier. It's just
a very nice looking game.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for shiny stuff. So
it is shiny.
The salesman couldn't get. I wouldn't even let him power it up. He's like, "Here, I'll turn it on. You can try it." I said, "No."
Overdrive.
Not doing it. In today's economy, I can't afford to buy anything else. We are just holding our own here. Ever since the economy tanked, we dropped back to almost break-even point. Which at that point I said, I'll keep doing it because I own the bricks.
Right.
So as long as we don't go into a negative cash flow thing where I've really got to prop this thing up again, which I had to do to get it going.
Right.
I'm willing to work for no profit. I don't draw a living off that anyway. If it makes money, then it gets better stuff. When it doesn't make any real money, then whatever's here has got to be fixed.
Yeah.
I can't afford to buy new stuff. So that's where I'm at right now. It's like, things are starting to get better, and I know it's time. I haven't bought anything new down on the main floor since Super Bikes, which was probably 2007.
Right.
So it's been too long. Betson would like to see you buy something at least once a year.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yep.